Hey, I've been really excited about this morning for a very long time, and I know that you don't know why necessarily, but I'm about to tell you. We have a guest speaker with us this morning that before he comes up, I want to give you just a little bit of history as to how this came to be. His name is Chip Taylor. I'll throw that out there now. He is the head of an organization called Intern Academy, which you'll see several of us repping today. Intern Academy, if you'll remember last year, 2025, at our annual business meeting, we made a proposal to you of we would like to enter into a partnership with Intern Academy, which essentially what that meant from the logistical side of it was that we were going to start sending them money every year and supporting them that way, making them a missions partner, a ministry partner. But what it also meant was that we were going to start bringing in interns. And so if you'll remember last year, we had Aaron Dodson with us for the summer. He was our first Intern Academy intern. For the school year this year, we've had Ari Moon as our high school intern. And then this summer, Ari has stayed on, and we have Avery with us as well. You just saw both of them up here. You saw them last week doing a VBS thing. That's all through this organization called Intern Academy. But beyond that, when I came here, I had been a coach through Intern Academy for about 4 years prior to that. And there was this passion and this desire of, I want to see us start to do this, but we had to get ready for it. We had to kind of prepare towards that. Then we brought on Pastor Mike, who was also a coach. And that kind of was like, okay, we're ready to roll with this thing. And then 2 years ago, he and I sat in an Intern Academy Coaches Summit in which Chip stood up and said, some of you are coaches and you're not coaching anybody. And I sat there, and he told me afterwards he wasn't talking to me, but I certainly felt like he was talking to me in that moment. Because I sat there and I went, you're right, I haven't coached an intern in 4 years, and it's time to get rolling with this. I want to go back just a little bit further in that story, though, to 10 years-ish ago. I don't know the exact date. When I went to my very first Intern Academy retreat, and I'm going to, if he wants to talk about retreat and what that looks like, I'll let Chip do that. And you don't have to, just because I said that, by the way. But I went to my very first Intern Academy retreat as an Intern Academy coach. And I kind of, at Highlands, where I came from, I kind of was an Intern Academy coach because that's just something that they did. I didn't know what this thing was. I got picked up at the airport by a guy that I had never met, and we ate Popeye's chicken for the first time in my life, and we're on our way up to Academy Retreat, and I hadn't actually met Chip. I have heard of him. He is a legend in the Church of God youth ministry world. He's going to hate that I even use that word for him, but it's true, and he's just got to learn to accept it at some point in his life. I went to this thing, I didn't know Chip, and they had this day where we all went outside. It was rainy, it was muddy, it was messy, and they had this tradition of going out and playing kickball. And so we went out, and I'm like, I don't know anybody here, and you all might think that I'm comfortable with people that I don't know. I'm actually really not. It's all an act, to where I just figure if you can fake it until you make it, then you'll get comfortable around people. But we go out there, and we're playing kickball, and Chip comes around third base. And home plate, I don't even know if you remember this, but home plate is just a mud puddle. Like you can barely see home plate because of how much water and mud there is going on here. And Chip comes around home plate and just Supermans it into home plate diving in. And the water's going everywhere. And you're sitting there and you're like, that's a really weird story to tell. But the reason that I tell that story is that I realized on that day that Chip Taylor is all in. That he is not holding back. The passion, I wish that you all would have more than however long he's going to take in a message. I wish that you would have more time than that to see the passion that he has for this younger generation. And when I say younger generation, I mean he started out coaching my generation. And he didn't just stop there and be like, okay, now it's your guys' turn. He continues to coach the next generation while still coaching my generation. He has a passion for building up leaders in the church. And if you could ever have the opportunity to go to an Intern Academy retreat, you would see the impact of that passion. Now, he'll get up here and he'll say, it's not all me, and it's not. I'll give you that. It's not all you. But this is a man that started, he had a mission that he was sent on from God, and he said, yes, God, I'll do it. And so, Chip, I know you're going to hate like 75% of the introduction that I just gave you, but I think it's important for all of you to understand who this guy is. that we're going to hear from this morning, and the passion and the desire that he has to serve God and to see this next generation continue to serve God. So would you welcome this morning Chip Taylor?
I love you, brother. Thanks. Good morning. It's a joy for me to be here. I bring you greetings from Phoenix, Arizona. My home church, your sister church, Church of God there, McDowell Church. I also bring you greetings from the Intern Academy and get a chance to represent and support and champion the work that God is doing there. But this is a real treat for me. You talked a few weeks ago about the table and how people get invited in, and when you get to the table, your family. And we just a couple weeks ago at a retreat talked about this idea that he's remembering the table right now, by the way, as I said table.
Thanks for the cue.
This idea that we have people that can be friends of ours, but they only get to the front door of our house. Could be a neighbor or somebody you only know a little bit. And then you have the living room people, and those are the people that your mom asks you to vacuum for, and she wipes down the baseboards when they're coming over, but you stay in kind of the living room set. And then you get to the table, and that's family. And then there's a different group of people that are even beyond that. And I would say for me, Justin and Mike, they are in that beyond that category. They're brothers. And for men, when we get to that kind of intimacy in a relationship, we don't really know what to do. For the ladies, you know what to do. You can sit for hours talking about it. You connect, you hug, you look each other in the eye. For men, that's just really, really awkward for us. And so what we do is we poke at each other. We tease each other. We give each other a hard time. I remember I first met Justin. He was a youth pastor. And there's kind of this code that as youth pastors, we stick together. And some of us are called to do youth ministry for a long time, like me, and others are called to do other things. And Justin's one of those that God's called to be a lead pastor. But as a brother, we don't miss that opportunity to talk about the demotion that he took to be a lead pastor, to harass him about being a traitor. And I will forever, in our relationship, think of him as a traitor to youth ministry. A few years ago at an event, they handed out a sticker of my face, which I actually hated. And most people who were kind, when they found that I hated it, would just kind of let it rest. But if you're Michael or you're Justin, you see this as an opportunity to poke and to prod. And so they'll send me pictures of my face in their staff meeting or pictures of my face on a walk. So then I return the favor for them. When you get snow and ice in the middle of February here, while I'm in Phoenix, I send a picture of me in shorts and the sun. And it just goes back and forth. Literally just this week, I'm speaking at a big event. It would have been important for certain people in their life as a pivotal, monumental moment. It's not really that for me. And so Justin plays it up. He gets the booklet. He turns to a page labeled autographs. And he follows me around the lobby asking for my autograph. He followed me all the way into the bathroom. This is a deep kind of friendship. It's the 2 a.m. kind, the ones that you could call at any point when you're having one of those days. And they would love you. And they would see you. It's the kind of friend that you can say, hey, you got to get back into coaching, and they would actually respond. It's the kind of friend that you could say, hey, we're a little short on funds, and they would say, our church will jump in. I hope you have those kind of friends. I've actually found in ministry they're actually hard to find. And so today it is in my extreme honor to be in your presence and to be in this place. I've heard about you for a long time. I got to come and visit, but it was during the week, so it was my first time getting to be here on a Sunday. I've heard about the kingdom work that you're about. It doesn't surprise me that you would have a moment where you would come and honor kids and list them by name. It doesn't surprise me that you would have a Sunday moment. Doesn't surprise me that I wish I was back there with a Sunday right now. Maybe some of you do too. Doesn't surprise me that you're about the next gen. Doesn't surprise me that the staff that you have is intentional at passing on the faith. And so it's my joy to be with you, but I do have a word, something to encourage you with today. Something that I feel like the Lord has stirred within me for you. The title of today's message, Deep Water. And before I get myself into any more deep water with the two of them, let me just show you this picture. This is a picture of some students from retreat a couple weeks ago. You'll see Justin, well, you probably won't. There, he's in the back. Look for the bald guy, Mike, he's in the back. Avery's over there, I think. This is a picture of those who came to retreat. Now, it doesn't seem like much, just a bunch of faces to you. But for me, Intern Academy started years ago with 4 youth pastors and their 8 interns. This is now 61 youth pastors in this picture and 96 interns and grads who are pursuing a call to ministry. What you may not know is that we have a significant crisis in the Church of God, and actually all churches do. A significant shortage of pastors. Spent some time with a young man that's from my youth ministry. He took over a church that had been without a youth pastor, or been without a pastor. He was the only pastor there for 4 years. Most churches actually don't look like what you have. I hope for just today you can appreciate you not only have a pastor, but you have multiple pastors. And actually you have multiple young pastors. It would put you in the 1 or 2% of all Church of Gods in the movement. And so what I know about that is if God's done that, which sounds really cool and is awesome, and a tribute to their leadership and to bringing great people around, that it's not just so it can be cute. It's not just so it can be a nice to have. It's not just so you can just hold on to it and hope it doesn't go away, but God would do that so that you would be on mission. There has to be purpose to it, and that purpose has to be even beyond these walls and what happens on a Sunday morning. It's a movement to move from shallow water to deep water. It's a calling that He would place on you as a church body to make a big difference, not just a difference. It's a call on you to say, I'm not going to just sit in a pew and consume, but I'm going to get involved and get engaged both within my church, finding places to serve, and outside my church, seeing wherever I work, wherever I serve, wherever I go, wherever I visit, whoever I talk to, whoever I come encounter with, that I'm on mission. That there's a purpose that's greater than what I would want or see in my own story. That's these people's stories. It's young leaders who have come together and are being mentored. And what we're finding is that we're able to turn the tide of this crisis that we have in the Church of God, a shortage of leaders, by developing mentoring relationships. Churches that will take on 1 or 2 interns every year and be intentional at investing, giving them opportunities, letting them stand on their stage, giving them grace when they make a mistake, giving them chances to practice and to try and to experience. And as they do, God stirs in them a calling to deeper water. I wonder what He might be stirring in you for deeper water. Our text this morning is in Luke chapter 5. Let me just give you a little bit of background of Luke chapter 5. Luke, gospel, Jesus, story of Him, beginning. It's just happening. Jesus is just starting His life and His ministry. He's done some teachings, He's done some miracles, but He's just getting started. People don't really know who He is. They're kind of just checking Him out, watching Him from a distance. And there's this scene, this moment, early in the morning and early in Jesus' ministry, where He's walking on this lake. I want you just to imagine if you are the shore of a big lake, and this up here is the lake, right? All the people would be out there, occasionally out here. Maybe you see a boat. Maybe someone's walking close to the water because they like that. But for the most part, people are on the shore, and there's not a whole lot of people out on the lake. And in this particular moment, early in the morning, the people would be on their way to work, walking, going, traveling, and they would stop by the shore, the market, to get food for the day. Fresh fish, fresh bread, whatever it happens to be. So the people are on their way. They're on the move, going this way and that way. And the Bible says that Jesus saw boats, 2 boats, on the shore. I don't know if it looked like this, but in my mind it looked like this. The boats were there, and the fishermen had been out all night. When you fished back then, you would fish at night. You would throw your nets, you'd fish all night, you'd come in the morning, you'd sell your fish on the shore, you'd clean your nets, you'd go take your nap. So this is the moment that's happening, this early morning. This is where we pick up the story. It's in Luke chapter 5. You want to follow along on your phone or the Bible or whatever you brought, or you just want to listen, that's fine too. You can look on the screen. I'm going to read it on mine. New NIV today. Verse 3 of Luke chapter 5. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and he asked him to put out a little from shore. And then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. Okay, so we got the image. There's the shore. There's all the people. Jesus is doing some teaching. Crowds are gathering around. He needs a little bit more space. Let's just get out on this little boat. So he's out on the boat in the shallow water. The Bible says he gets in Simon's boat. We later learn that Simon's name through Jesus gets changed to Peter. Simon's somewhere like maybe I would imagine back there by the sound booth, like cleaning his net. And James and John, the other guys in the other boat, they're cleaning their nets. It's the end. They had a terrible night fishing. It wasn't good. Nothing. No fresh fish. People are probably grumbling because they didn't get anything and they needed that fish for the day or whatever it happens to be. I don't know. And Jesus is teaching. He's just teaching in the boat, hanging out in the boat, using it kind of as a platform. Verse 4 says this. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, put out into deep water. Everybody say deep water. Say it like you mean it, deep water. Come on, church, do better than that. Come on, say deep water. Deep water. He said to them, Simon, put out into the deep water. Now think about that. You're Simon. You've been cleaning the boat or cleaning the nets. You're done. Not only that, you're the fisherman. You know fishing. This man is a carpenter. He don't know fishing. You're the fisherman. You're the expert. You know better. I've been at the church long enough. This is how we do things. This is how we've always done it. I know better. Simon has this dilemma because he's the expert. You ever had a moment where you're supposed to be the expert and God has a lesson for you from someone who's not the expert? It happened to my daughter this week. She lives with us, got 3 grand boys, baby, 2 and 4. The 2-year-old got a hold of a hammer, walking around the garage, and hit the pot, crock pot, the lid, with the hammer. It shatters. The mom comes over, my daughter, looks at it, and the 2-year-old says, take a deep breath, Mom. Sometimes in our life, there's these moments where we're not the expert. Someone else actually might know better. And even though Jesus wasn't a fisherman, and Jesus and Peter hadn't had any interaction at this point, he probably heard about him, but didn't know. And we know this because he literally referred to him as master in just a minute. Master, not like master, you and I would think about master, but just like teacher. Like 4th grade teacher, substitute teacher. I kind of know you have an important role, but I don't really know you. I don't even know your name. So I'm not going to call you by your name, but I'm just going to call you teacher. Just try to show you some respect. Jesus says, put out in the deep water and let down the nets for the catch. If Jesus asked you to do something crazy today, would you do it? To some of those students on the screen before, asking them to explore a call to ministry is crazy. For some of their parents, it's really crazy. But this text isn't just for people called to ministry. It's for us. If God had called you to do something today, to forgive the neighbor that's driving you crazy, to forgive a debt that someone owes you, to invite somebody to your table, to walk across this room after service and go say hello to somebody, would you do it? That literally is the deep water. It's God asking us to do things that we don't really want to do that might be better for us. And there's a dilemma that's created in our spirit where we think we know best, and that's not really a good idea. Let's continue on, verse 6. They go out. Actually, let me back up. One of the things that's not mentioned, Luke was known, who wrote this text, for writing down the details. Right? He writes a lot of words. And Luke was known for writing down the details. And it just says that Jesus asked him to put out into the deep water. And Simon said, Master, I mean, we already did, kind of, but if you say so, I will. And there's this moment where he had to step into the boat. Now, later there's a story where he had to step out of the boat. But to step out of the boat, you got to get in the boat. To take your faith to level 2, you got to step into level 1. And so he stepped into the boat. And there's no record of any kind of conversation that took place. But what I know about boating is that when you are on the shallow water and you have to literally row out to the deep water, it's going to take time. I wonder what that conversation was like. It's been stirring in me for a few weeks as I thought about coming with you. Like, what would it have been like? Would Peter have said anything? Would Jesus have said anything? I don't think Simon, when he's walking this out and he gets in the boat, he really believes anything great's going to happen. Because later in the story, we find out he kind of seems surprised. But he gets in the water and he gets his guys together and they start rowing. Maybe he's rolling his eyes. I don't know what it was like. But here's what I do know. When you take steps of obedience, the fruit of that obedience is a long ride. When you say yes to Jesus, I'm going to walk across the room, students in the room. I'm going to walk across the cafeteria of my school, and I'm going to sit by the kid that's got acne and never showers and is the outcast and no one likes. And I'm just going to be his friend. It's not like when you just do that the very first time and you go to that cafeteria and you sit next to that kid that now everybody knows who I'm talking about, that one that just seems awkward, that one at work that you kind of avoid when it's water cooler time, or you kind of avoid when they're on their tractor next to you. Those people that just kind of grate on you. God's called you to go there. The fruit of that relationship, the harvest you hope to reap, is a long road. Here's the long road out. It may be silence, it may be a conversation. I wish I could have been there. They throw the nets out. This is what it says in verse 6. When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. Any fishermen in the room? Raise your hand if you're a fisherman. Good, 2 people. Awesome, really great. Picked a text that can't relate to anybody. Awesome. I like fishing. I've had good experiences fishing. I've been shut out times I've had good experiences fishing. Here's what I know. I've never caught so many fish that I couldn't even get them in the boat. Never. And my guess is that's the same for them. That though he was the expert and the professional, something now has happened that he just didn't expect. And so like a good fisherman, in a minute he's going to get to Jesus and say, wow, that was really cool. But first, he's got to get the fish. So he calls his buddies. They race over. They get in their boat. They get the net in their boat. The other buddies jump in. They paddle, row out to get to the spot. They give all the fish. And it says they had so much fish that their boats began to sink. And then Peter looks at Jesus, and instead of calling him master, now verse 8, he says this. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me, Lord. I'm a sinful man. Just talked about this morning during communion. We know who we are. But Peter changed his name in this moment. Instead of master, instead of just teacher, he's like, oh no, you're way more than teacher. You're Lord. What would it be like for us to not have to see the fruit before our lives looked like he was Lord? What's fascinating to me is the reminder that when he fell at his feet, he's now changed his demeanor from "I know better than you" to total humility. You know, one of the signs, my friends in this church, the signs of somebody who is really growing deep in their faith? Humility. It's not the expert who knows better. It's the willingness to fall on our knees, to get dirty, to serve at VBS, to drive the van to camp, to pray for kids when they're at camp, to not need the attention, to not need it your way. Humility is a sign of our growth in our faith. Here's this moment of humility. And Jesus has this to say to him in verse 10. Don't be afraid. From now on, you will catch men. He changed the game for him. Interesting that he said, don't be afraid. But you and I know, when you're asked to walk across that cafeteria, fear. When you're asked to walk across to the neighbor whose farm's next to yours, and you have some tension, fear. When you're asked to be respectful or forgive somebody who maybe doesn't seem like they deserve it, but just what Jesus has asked of you, fear. When you're asked to go into ministry, but you really had a dream to be an electrician or an engineer or a doctor or a teacher, fear. There's this constant journey in our relationship and our faith with Jesus. Constant. Where he keeps asking us to take that step in the boat out to the deep water. It doesn't matter whether you've been a pastor your whole life, whether you're brand new to the faith, or you're here just exploring faith, or you're just here because someone asked you to come, or whether you've been in this church for a long time, or you've been in the church for a year, it doesn't matter. All of us are on this same journey where he keeps calling us to deeper water. And we go through the same emotions of the need to be humility, but the anxiety and the fear of what he's calling us to. And then we sang about it today, exactly what they did. Verse 11, the end of the text. So they pulled their boats up on shore. They left everything. Everybody say everything. They left everything and followed him. I'm going to give you a hard teaching today because I think I can, because of the leaders that you have and because this is a place of trust. But I know I'm asking you for a lot because you don't know me. But I just want you to know, this is a hard teaching. But the cost of following Jesus, if you want to know what it is, it's everything. It's your money. It's your time. It's your heritage. It's your humility. It's your agenda. It's your purpose. It's that whenever God calls you to deeper water, a shift in your direction, the answer is always, yes, Lord, yes. I want to show you a picture of some students that are saying, yes, Lord, yes. When you give to this church, and you so kindly as a team have supported us, you're actually having a significant impact. We're celebrating these kids at the end of this month in our newsletter article, but you're the first to see it. I want you to know that when you give, you're having an impact. You're not just keeping lights on, you're not just paying for salaries, you're not just putting on the next event, helping kids get gas to get to the camp. You're actually having kingdom impact. All that stuff leads to that. The girl on the top left, her name's Maddie. Maddie's in Sioux Falls. She came from North Carolina and took her call to Sioux Falls. She works for Crew. They're in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The kid next to her, the second in from the top, that kid's Matthew. Matthew grew up in Florida. Matthew was working 3 jobs just so he could volunteer in the youth ministry at his church. God called him to youth ministry. He did an internship in IA. He just took a job in Meadville, Pennsylvania. The next kid in the middle top is Corbin. Corbin's a young man from Oklahoma City, but he just took a church in Ohio. To show you how short our leaders are, how desperate we are for leaders. Corbin was hired in September for a job he couldn't take until June. We just heard from our general director this week about the shortage, that between 70 and 80% of all pastors in our tribe are eligible for retirement in the next 5 to 10 years. Imagine the impact if people don't step into these roles of 3/4 of your tribe of pastors across across the country no longer in service, what that would do to churches and communities. When I say you're very lucky to have the staff that you have, I actually mean it. The girl next to Corbin on the top right, that's Madeline. Madeline's a children's pastor in Salem, Ohio. The far right is a guy named Matthew Helton. Matthew led worship for us at retreat as a 21-year-old. Matthew is the new youth pastor at Chartel Church of God in Oklahoma City. Bottom left, that's David. David helped us translate the Intern Academy manual from English to Spanish. He's from Mexico. We now have our first international internship in Honduras last year and again this year. And they're using the manual that young man, David's the brand new youth pastor at New Vida Church in Dallas, Texas. Next to him is Caitlin. Caitlin just took a job as the children's pastor at Victory Church in Oklahoma. In the middle is Caroline. If you go to our website at any point and see Intern Academy, that's the young lady who's running that website. Caroline is the new communications director at Catalyst Church in Indiana. I saved the best for the last three are all Indiana. Nicole is at Crossings Church up in Indianapolis, Indiana. She runs the 4th and 5th and 6th grade director program. And Megan Christensen is the new youth pastor at a church in Anderson, Indiana, Church of God there. Megan came to me at retreat a year ago with her phone, and she said, I just put your number in my phone. We give out each other's numbers so people can connect if they need us. I just put your number in my phone. She didn't even put my name in there. She just put your great-great-grandpa Coach. I had never met her. I talked to her on the phone one time, didn't know who she was when she came up to me. She said, I wanted you to see this. And my response to her was, that's offensive. I'm way too young to be a great-great-grandpa. She said, no, that's what I figured out while I was here this week at my first retreat. That my coach was coached by somebody who was coached and is a pastor, who was coached by somebody who was an intern who was coached, and it traces all the way back to you, 5 generations back. I'm an intern now, and now she's a pastor, but she can trace her discipleship, making disciples, lineage all the way back 5 generations. And I went from being offended to deep water. That God will use a little kid like me from a small town in Colorado to impact kids whose names I didn't even know. You see, when you step into the deep water, I don't think Simon knew what kind of impact he was going to have. I don't think he knew that we would be using him and we actually would like him the most because he's actually most like us because he would do things right, do things wrong. So we used him preach on Peter a lot. But he didn't know in the moment the impact it was going to have. And you and I, we don't know in the moment when we step into deep water what it's going to be like. I'll leave you with these 4 thoughts. Number 1, that deep water is away from the crowds. Imagine the people walking, hustling and bustling on their way to work. When you get in that boat with Jesus, you're going away from the people. That means you're going away from sometimes the noise. If you're going to really be serious about giving Jesus everything this morning, it's going to seem like you're swimming upstream, even in a church full of people who claim to be believers. Because actually everything, all I have being given to Jesus, is just not something that's always modeled for us. We have a lot of half-in people, half in the boat, half out. Jesus is like, you better get in because we're going out deep. But we're going to go a long ways out. We're going away from the crowds, away from the noise, away from what's familiar, away from what people might think you should do, away from other people's agendas, away from the race of life, into a whole new adventure. It may not change your job. It's not going to change your family, but it is going to change your outlook. That when I wake up in the morning, I'm not just a father and a grandfather and a husband, but I'm on mission to bring the gospel to that family that God's given me. To serve them, to care for them, to love them, to set aside what I would want for what they would want. It's away from what our world is teaching us, and it's out there with Jesus, away from the crowds. It's also, deep water is away from the shore. Think about swimming when you were a little kid. You would first get in the shallow end. But the deep water is deep. There's no rescuing. There's nowhere to find footing. You're totally dependent on that boat. And if that boat starts to sink, it can be a pretty scary moment because there's no other footing to put it down on. Deep water calls us to a life of sometimes insecurity. That's why he was afraid. It calls us to a life of humility. It's away from what's safe and comfortable. Deep water, though, might be away from the crowds and away from the shore, but it is closer to Jesus. If you're looking for more clarity in your life, more intimacy with the Father, you're not going to find it on the shore. It's in the deep water. If you want to find that relationship with Jesus that it seems like some other people have in this room, they seem to know him really well. They seem to have that direct line to the Father. They seem to live a life of humility and grace, and you just kind of seem like their characteristics is what I want to put on. I wish I had that. How do I work through my anger? How do I work through my temptations? How do I work through the frustration I go through? How do I become a better husband, a better father, a better leader, a better businessman? What is it going to take? How do I get it to be like them? I can tell you it's in the deep water. That's where you're going to find Jesus. You're not going to find him where everyone else is at. And finally, this deep water is closer to purpose. It's purpose. Your life and my life. What are we here for? What does it actually really matter? Why would he ask us to give up everything? What point is it? Oh, the point is simple. Purpose. For Peter, I'm going to make you a fisher of men. Do you know your purpose? If you're looking for it, it's in the deep water. Let me pray for us. God, thank you for this moment, to be in this space at this time with these people. Thank you for my friends, for Justin, for Mike, for their families, for the privilege to stand in this place, in this church that gets it, that understands the deep water, that's already leaning into it. I pray, God, that they would not grow weary in doing good. Whether they're on that long boat ride out and they're wondering if they're going to find that purpose, wonder if they're making the right choice after they've given up everything, after they've given up their own agendas, their own life, their own things they wanted to do for the sake of others, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of the kingdom, for the sake of bringing hope to Monroe City and the surrounding areas. God, I pray as they're on that long boat ride out that they would trust that your plan is best and that out there in the deep water they'll be with you and they will find your purpose. Lord, it's in your precious and it's your matchless name, the name that is above every name. Thank you for loving us. We love you right back. In Jesus' name, all God's people say amen.